This could be our longest interview distance-wise, as we are now joined by Caitlin from Australian band Eat Your Heart Out. How are you doing, Caitlin?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Too warm over in the UK at the moment. Very warm.
Yeah, it's like we've switched around. I feel like usually it's always the Australian bands that are like, it's so hot, but it's cold here for once. And it's
Really?
hot there. Yeah.
So, what part of Australia are you based?
So we're based in Newcastle, Australia. So that's about 2 hours north of Sydney. So obviously, I feel like most people outside Australia know Sydney, but people haven't always heard of Newcastle. But yeah, we're 2 hours north of Sydney.
So, Eat Your Heart Out. Just tell us the journey of Eat Your Heart Out.
Yeah, sure. So we formed in 2012 when most of us were still in high school. So a decade ago now. And yeah, we'd all just sort of been into like alternative music and wanted to start a band, and we did it, and we started out playing like local shows at like youth centers and senior citizens halls and pretty much anywhere that we could. We're actually from a small country town called Muswellbrook, which is an hour and a half west of Newcastle. And so then as we started playing more shows, we started getting a couple of shows in Newcastle and playing a couple of like bars and that sort of stuff. A few which we definitely weren't supposed to play because we were all underage, but we would sneak in and play anyway. And then we eventually all moved to Newcastle once we all finished school and kept grinding away at it. Started doing some like DIY tours of Australia. We're lucky enough to get signed to Fearless Records in 2017. And then it's been a journey. And so now we're at our second album this year, as we said before, coming out in September. So
I think the first time I heard Eat Your Heart Out was on the Fearless Records Pump Goes Pop.
yes, yeah.
I think it was Ed Sheeran's Shape of You.
It was. So yeah, I think that's when a lot of people heard of us. We were super lucky to get that. Like that was sort of just after we'd signed to Fearless, and it was really last minute. I think maybe they'd had another band that was supposed to do that song, and something happened, I guess, and they weren't doing it. So I think most bands get to choose the song they do, but because we were the new signing, they were kind of just like, "Do you guys want to do this?" And we were like, "Of course we do." Like we all grew up listening to Punk Goes Pop, like such an iconic thing. So of course we said yes, and so the song was already picked for us, and we pretty much had like a week to turn it around and get it done. And I think a lot of people heard our music for the first time that way.
So musical influences. So let's say personal first. Your personal influences.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot. I feel like what I'm listening to changes a lot. Like there's always sort of the baseline things, which I feel like I always mention, which is sort of the more alternative like emo stuff that I listened to when I was like a teenager, and I still listen to now all the time. So bands like Mayday Parade, Jimmy Eat World, Alexis on Fire, bands like Paramore and Panic at the Disco and stuff like that. So they're always there in the back of my mind because that's pretty much what my music taste is like built on. But I don't know. There's always sort of new stuff. Like I don't know how much you would really see it in our new record, but like the last year or so, I got really into like Phoebe Bridgers. I really like. I feel like she's basically like an emo artist, but just without like the really heavy band behind it. Like her lyrics are so deep. So yeah, that sort of stuff, and even a little bit more of like current wave of alternative stuff that's really coming through. Like I really enjoyed Kenny Hoopla's EP, and I feel like when we were writing the record, that sort of thing was definitely on my mind. So yeah, for me personally, it's a bit of a mix of old and new, I guess. Like just sort of the formative stuff, and then whatever I'm listening to at the time.
So I've asked this to a lot of the female fronted bands we spoke with. So what's it like being like that female front woman in such a male dominated industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess, like when we first started, it wasn't something I really thought about. I suppose I was conscious of the fact that a lot of the time, like I was the only girl or woman in the room, like at most of the shows we played and sort of anything we did as a band. But it's definitely awesome to see how that has shifted a little bit over the last, couple of years. Like there's just so many more bands with women and people that just don't identify as men in bands, and like it's awesome to see that diversity coming through. Like nowadays it's so much more common to play on a bill with a band with like another woman, whereas as I said, back in the day, like for years I would be the only girl on a bill, the only girl in the room, like on a tour. So yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting experience, but I guess it's the only one I've ever had. So I can't really compare it to anything, but I'm just excited that it is shifting, and there's just so many more women like in the scene and being encouraged to join in the scene and just absolutely killing it, because it's awesome.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to anyone who wants to start up like a band?
I mean, I would say just go for it. There's so many reasons you could just not do it. Like you could always find a reason, why it won't work or why you shouldn't do it. But at the end of the day, I think if you want to do it, like go for it. And I think having having like big goals is important because it keeps you driven, but also just going into it without really strict expectations of what you should be doing or what you'll achieve and what sort of time frame is important, because like it can be disheartening to, I guess, like a lot of the time it's easy in the scene to compare yourself to other bands and what they're doing and like opportunities they're getting and stuff. It can be disheartening, and everyone experiences that. But I think if you just go in like, wanting to have fun and wanting to have a good time and create something, without these sort of heavy expectations looming overhead, you'll just have a good time. And I think something that it took me personally a while to sort of, learn, and I'm still learning, is just how to be confident in what you're doing. Like it's easy to get nervous and, be worried about people like judging you on stage or judging your music that you put out. But at the end of the day, like you do it for yourself. So you just have to do what feels good for you and what fulfills you. And I think that's when you have the best time. So yeah, I think just, to sum it up, just go for it and don't stress too hard about it. Just do what feels right and have fun.
Now, the new album, I've said it's coming out. When is it coming out in September?
September 9th.
So just tell us about the album. So what it's called and the process of making the album.
Yeah, so the album is called Can't Stay Forever. It was recorded in November and December last year, so 2021. We started writing it at the end of 2020, and so sort of we were writing on it all through 2021, up until and when we were in the studio. And yeah, it's it's definitely our favorite record we've ever created. Like we're so proud of it. We're really happy with how it turned out. It was produced by a guy called Jack Newland from Melbourne. He did an absolutely phenomenal job. We had the best time with Jack, and yeah, it's just sort of, there's not one, I suppose, one theme that, like, the whole album's not just about one thing, but essentially it's just about, you know, a variety of experiences and feelings that I had, you know, throughout, like, the last couple of years, like even before COVID and like during the lockdown. And the title is a lyric from one of the tracks on the record, the song Deep End. And it's essentially just like my way of saying, you know, like nothing is permanent, like nothing lasts forever. Which to me is both, it's a good thing and a bad thing, but it's kind of reassuring to me. Like it can be bad because, you know, sometimes you're having the best time ever and you're in such a good situation, but you know that it can't last forever. Like you have to you know, like when we're on tour or something, it's the best time ever, but you know at some point it's going to end and you have to go home, however long that's for. But it's just kind of the way it works. But on the flip side, it's the same with bad situations. Like you can be having a really bad time, you know, like in a relationship or just your own like mental health or anything like that, but you know that at the end of the day, like that situation can't last forever. It's always going to end and move into a new phase at some point. So yeah, it's both a positive and a negative to me, but it is kind of a way that I reassure myself, like, you know, everything always changes, it always shifts, and you don't really know what's going to come next. But yeah, you just can't stay forever in one single moment. So yeah.
So you mentioned touring. Is there any plans for like a UK stop?
Yeah, we nothing we can announce, but we were lucky enough to visit the UK and Europe for the first time in April and May this year. And we had the absolute best time of our lives. So we've been working super hard to try and get back there as soon as we can. So yeah, nothing we can announce yet, but it's definitely in the works. It's top of the priority list because we had such a good time. Everyone was so lovely and accommodating. The shows were awesome. And yeah, we just had an awesome time. And we all ate probably our body weight in Greg's sausage rolls. So we're desperate to come back and get some more of that Greg's.
So Caitlin, thanks for taking the time out to have a chat with us. It must be, what time is it in Australia, by?
It is 7:15
Wow.
p.m.
Wow.
Yeah, is it morning
Yeah.
where you are?
Yes.
Yeah. Pretty early? Pretty early, right?
10:15.
Oh, okay. That's
That's
okay. I
not
was
too
for
bad.
some reason thinking, yeah, that's okay.
So Caitlin, thanks again for taking the time out to have a chat with us, and have a good Sunday. In other words.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It was awesome to chat, and yeah, hopefully we'll get over to the UK soon, and we'll get to see you, catch up.
Yep. Cheers, Caitlin.